justice, temperance, wisdom, courage. Applying ancient philosophy to modern times, this is the Sunday Stoic.
This episode is going to be a short review of New Year's resolutions. Have you ever made a resolution and broken it? Well, if you've ever made a resolution, then I'm sure you have. In fact, I think only like 8% or something ridiculous of the population actually keeps the resolutions they make at New Year's. So what should a Stoic do about this? What should a Stoic do for a New Year's resolution, and how can they stick with it? Well, let's talk to Seneca about that. Moral Letters to Lucilius by Seneca. Letter number 26, on Philosophy, the Guide to Life. It is clear to you, I am sure, Lucilius, that no man can live a happy life or even a supportable life without the study of wisdom. You know also that a happy life is reached when our wisdom is brought to completion, but the life is at least endurable even when our wisdom has only begun. This idea, however, clear though it is, must be strengthened and implanted more deeply by daily reflection. It is more important for you to keep the resolutions you already have made than to go and make new, more noble ones. You must persevere, must develop new strength by continuous study until that which is only a good inclination becomes a good, settled habit. Moral Letters to Lucilius, number 120, more about virtue. Again, we have marked another man who is kind to his friends and restrained towards his enemies, who carries on his political and personal business with scrupulous devotion, not lacking in long suffering where there is anything that must be endured, and not lacking in prudence when action is to be taken. We have marked him giving with lavish hand when it was his duty to make a payment, and when he had to toil, striving resolutely and lightening his body weariness by his resolution. Besides, he has always been the same, consistent in all his actions, not only sound in his judgment, but trained by habit to such an extent that he not only can act rightly, but cannot help acting rightly. We have formed the conception that in such a man perfect virtue exists. Moral Letters to Lucilius, number 83, on drunkenness. I shall keep watching myself continually, and, a most useful habit, shall review each day, for this is what makes us wicked, that no one of us looks back over his own life. Our thoughts are devoted only to what we are about to do, and yet our plans for the future always depend on the past. In the first reading, Seneca reminds us that we're only going to be purely happy and wise when we've reached the end of our study of wisdom. But even though we're just starting the study of wisdom, at least life will be made easier and more endurable by that study. But we must work on the study of virtue through deep daily reflection. And he reminds us that it's best to stick to simple resolutions than to make more and more complex ones. So if you are a studying Stoic and you still haven't started keeping a daily journal, now might be the time. If you did start keeping a daily journal but you have not been consistent with it, then don't create a new plan on top of that. I will keep a journal and I will do Prim Meditatio Malorum on a daily basis, and I will do the View from Above, and I will give to charity, and don't add on more and more and more. Get good at one of those simple resolutions that you may have failed at in the past. Start that daily journal. Continue that daily journal. Work on those basic Stoic spiritual exercises like Premeditatio Malorum. In the second reading, we hear about what that perfect Stoic might look like after they've reached wisdom. And he says that we would be restrained towards our enemies, kind to our friends. We would be devoted to our personal business as well as our political lives with scrupulous devotion. We would be willing to suffer where there must be endurance. So if something takes a long time and is a lot of hard work, we won't flinch. We'll just do it. We will be prudent, so we'll be wise when we must take action, and we'll be more than willing to pay our debts. In fact, with a lavish hand, he says, we'll make our payments. And it goes on and on from there. My favorite part then is at the end of this reading where he says the wise person here not only can act rightly, they have the ability to act rightly, but they cannot help but acting rightly. And then he says, we have formed the conception that this person of perfect virtue exists. This idea of the Stoic sage could exist in the flesh, not just in our minds. And the last reading, tying back to these other readings, he reminds us of something we could do as one of our resolutions here. What would that wise person do to stay wise, to become wise, and to get rid of those bad habits they've developed? Well, we continuously watch ourselves and take into account at the end of the day, maybe in a journal, for example, what we did the day, how we succeeded, how we failed. He says no one looks back at their day. Everyone's only thinking about the future. We hardly ever take the time to think about the past and how we could have done better. So once again, we're not going to beat ourselves up here. We're going to look at the day and say, okay, I really shouldn't have yelled at that guy when he cut me off in traffic, or I shouldn't have been so rude to the person who bought the last donut, or whatever it is at the grocery today that I wanted. What we want to do is review the day and say, oh, I did a good job here, I did a bad job there, and reflect on it deeply enough that the next day we can recall how yesterday went and try to make today better. So what are your resolutions? I'm on board with Seneca here. Don't make too many. Make a couple of simple resolutions, but important ones. And one thing you could do if you don't want to make a giant resolution, like I will keep a journal every day for the whole year, do a series of 30-day resolutions, 30-day challenges, if you will. For the next 30 days, I will do this. For the next 30 days after that, I will do something else. And that may help you develop the habit of that daily routine. And after your 30 days has ended, perhaps that habit will continue throughout the year. One thing I did a few years back is I did the Couch to 5K. I didn't know that I could. I've never been a runner, but after all of it was done, I could run 5K. I can't now probably because I had a son and I've been out of shape for quite a while, but I need to get back at it. But my New Year's resolutions, as I said, I'm going to work on desire, my practice of desire, trying to not want as much material things, trying to not avoid unpleasant things that are out of my power, and I'm going to try to focus on a little more reading of the ancient Stoics and also some more reflection, some actual journal keeping. So hopefully you have some resolutions as well, and we can grow together in the next year. So goodbye 2017, hello 2018, carpe diem. I'll see you next year.